Balcones' first ever year-round bourbon was an inspiration. It all had to work together. A blend of carefully selected ingredients, Texas-sized pot stills, and creative people determined to find the absolute best way to usher a new whiskey along. When you discover how it pairs with a meaningful moment, suddenly the feeling of drinking great whiskey becomes a whole lot more.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Whiskey Neat, spirited conversations with interesting people. I am your host, Kristopher Hart. Now, I know what you're thinking, isn't that the same shirt you wore the last 2 weeks? This week, we actually got to sit down with the main antagonist of The Boys, Season 2 on Amazon Prime. If you've not seen it and you love superhero films and you love cussing and you love a R-rated version, an extra violent version of superhero films, then I encourage you to check it out. Anyways. So I got to sit down, socially distance, at the Petite Hermitage in West Hollywood with Antony Starr. We had a fantastic conversation, had a few drinks, and it's when you watch people on television and movies, you always just assume they're not normal people. He could not have been a more normal person. Now, I'll tell you this much. He's not only fantastic in The Boys, but he had a 4-season show called Banshee that is absolutely fantastic on Cinemax. I encourage you to go watch that. You will be hooked within episode 1 of Banshee. It is insanely good. So, but I just got to sit down with a human, have a few drinks from afar, talk about life, talk a little bit about politics, talk a little bit about everything, and just see a different side of that person that you see up on the screen. So I love my job. I left all 3 of these interviews feeling like I made a genuine friend who didn't seem superficial or fake in any way, shape, or form. Could not have been nicer people. As always, Whiskey Neat is supported by the inspired spirits at Glass Rev Imports. And of course, Amrut Distilleries. Amrut crafts one of the most award-winning Indian single malts to the exact same standards of Scotch. And of course, Amrut Fusion has received a double gold, blind, and scored a jaw-dropping 96 points by judges at the Proof Awards. I've talked about it. I've read that 1,000 times on this show. We've done a barrel selection with them that's going to be a statewide release. I could not be a bigger fan of Amrut. So, without further ado, and a final thank you to you guys, please enjoy the conversation with the one and only Antony Starr. Cheers. One of the things I brought,
yes.
You were born in 1975.
Correct.
Yes. So my wife and I got into whiskey together, huge fans.
Great.
And to me, these are, and I know my audience is tired of hearing this, these are time capsules.
Yes.
Right? Little
Yes.
moments in time.
Yes.
This bottle here, I brought just for you. It was bottled in 1975.
Oh my God.
Picked it up at auction. It smells like an old library. You know those old book areas. So
Oh my God.
it's a barrel of whiskey, and we are gonna break the seal on it.
Oh my
We
God.
can do that now.
Wait, so this is from when I was born?
Yeah. So this is the beauty of this.
That's
Your
insane.
entire career, everything you've ever accomplished since the day you were born, this has existed in that bottle the entire time. So we're breaking it open. We get to drink to everything you've done.
It's a time capsule.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's so beautiful. So
It is. I like it.
One of the things we get to do here is one of my favorite things. I was already a fan. I've watched The Boys, loved the show.
Okay.
And I'm sure you hear that a lot. We get to, knowing that we're going to interview you, I dive further because there's always something that falls through the cracks, and I found the beauty that is Banshee.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely fantastic. My wife and I started it together. Right out of the gate, first episode, holy shit, it's so good.
Yeah, it's fun, huh?
Banshee was fantastic, and I was watching you do an interview with somebody, and let me pour you something while we get started here. But we can start with a little Indian version of Scotch. This is an Indian single malt called Amrut, and it is. Have you ever drank whiskey neat?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Just making sure because it can put a little hair on your chest.
I do. No, I know. No.
So I'll give you a touch more. Yeah. So this is, and this will actually kill Corona. It's over 120 proof.
I have heard that there's the more alcohol you drink, the less of the Rona can survive. But I think that's actually it's non-negotiable now anyway because everyone's nerves are shot.
Correct. Yeah. So anything over 120 proof is the requirement for sanitizing.
Yes.
So 80 proof bourbon's not going to cut it. There's a trailing thought of like, oh, if I just drink bourbon, I'm fine. You gotta turn the heat up.
You gotta really turn it up.
Yeah. So this is Indian single malt. Yeah, absolutely. Give you a little. Haven't drank out of it, so no Rona. But yeah, a little Indian single malt. Amrut, big fan. Lots of chocolate. But
lots of chocolate, you say?
Oh, it smells like chocolate to me.
This is where I'm gonna have problems.
Yeah. Are you a sweethead? Love sugar?
It's been a real problem since Corona came along, actually.
Oh, quarantine?
Well, just quarantining, like you know, if it's not too much drink, it's too much food. One or the other. There's got to be something comforting at the end of the day, and it's either booze or food.
The booze thing's a bit difficult.
The booze thing, I don't know anyone that hasn't like doubled or tripled their booze intake.
Sure.
And,
pushing the limits. Breakfast beers are great. Nice meal replacement.
Breakfast beer. I'll drink to that.
Yeah, I had a lunch beer before you got here.
I did notice that when I came in. I was like, what's going on?
We've been running I actually don't drink as much as I'm making it sound, but we've been running all over LA the last 2 days.
Yeah.
And it's been tough to find time to eat, let alone time to decompress.
Right.
So we rushed back here. We set everything up. Poured me a beer. I barely touched it, but from the sips I had from it, it really helped.
Do you know what? It doesn't take a lot. I've been drinking a lot of oh God, what's it called? The Belgian Golden Ale, the Duvel.
Okay.
Duvel Golden Ale. It's delicious.
Yeah.
And then I found out it was like something like 450 calories a bottle or something like that. I was like, wait, what? I just had 4. So I've had like 3 pasta meals in and not even one sitting in my starter for the evening.
And that's something you've got to worry about, right?
I gotta be honest, like ordinarily not so much, especially not in the suit. So when we were starting the show, Banshee actually I had to worry a lot more, but then once the suit came aboard for the boys, it was like, okay, they built me muscles. Right. So I didn't need to worry about that. So it was mainly about maintaining the same sort of body shape and size, which is pretty easy for me. I don't go up or down, I don't yo-yo too much, but just to stay in the suit, because it's pretty rigid. It's not, whilst they say it's spandex, it's not. It's very, actually, because of the muscle suit.
Sure.
It's very restrictive. So I got to stay in the same sort of shape. But then since 2020 came along, it's really been about just trying to stay healthy, not as much as anything mentally, just really, I'm from New Zealand, so let me put it this way. New Zealand went into quarantine well after us, and then came out of quarantine, it must be 115 days ago. The whole time we've been doing this quarantine, some more than others, but I've been doing it relatively stringently. It's mainly about just keeping my fucking head in order.
Sure.
And trying to stay a little bit healthy because, like I said, it's like the eating and the drinking, and as much as anything, it's as the months have rolled on without much light at the end of the tunnel. It's been more. I found it increasingly difficult to maintain a sort of
normalcy.
Normalcy, and you need a reason to change your undies in the morning, right?
Sure.
And it's I think more for personal reasons at the moment than work reasons. The industry's pretty
stagnant.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. Sure. I mean, people are trying to make things, but they're all heading offshore. Like there's been a couple of things that have come up that are in Eastern Europe or
where they're past it already.
Where they're past it, yeah, or there's parts of Eastern Europe where they just don't give a shit in the same way, and they're prepared. You spend a lot of money, and you can kind of create a little environment, a sub-environment where you can protect everyone.
Sure.
That you can't do in the same way over here. So they're trying to create a bubble, and but it's, yeah. So but who knows? Who knows? Because as much as I'm talking about these jobs that are shooting over there, everyone is trying to get those jobs, and there's so few of them that it's it's a competitive industry, you know. So it's who knows, man? Who knows? So
Going back to boys for a second.
go back to boys.
Yeah. Well, did you expect this to be as big as it is? As well received as it is? I mean...
It's funny, all the reviews have started dropping now for season 2.
Really?
Literally today. So I've seen a couple of them and...
Good or bad?
Pretty good. You know, I know season 1 they were a little more checkered, although I don't read reviews good or bad. I avoid the whole thing because... you know, I just either in a positive or a negative way. You know, it either gets in your head and you can fall in love with the good news and fall apart with the bad. So it's too up and down for me, and none of it's not necessarily none of it's real, but it's you know, you don't real a lot of the time you don't really know who you're listening to, and you don't know. I've found a lot of critics as well. I should be saying something nice about them, but you know, a lot of critics tend to judge things on what's not there instead of what it is. You know, what they believe it should have been instead of really trying to understand what it is. It's not worth really getting into for me. But they have started coming out now, and the response as we get closer to the launch of season 2. It's really started. It's really now I'm feeling the groundswell of support, you know, and I didn't find it so much after season 1 when that launched. I knew that the response had been largely positive, but also I'm not sure why. I just got a much clearer sense that now it's starting to get into people's heads. I think it built. It's been building since season 1 dropped. There was an initial flurry, then it sort of backed off, and then as we've gotten closer to season 2, it started ramping up, and a lot of people discovering the show. And does that make sense? It feels like there was this like a flat spot shortly after the initial buzz, but then it just started snowballing and really increasing again. So
I agree completely. When it first came out, I was excited off a preview. As a fan of any comic book movie, I'm I'm eager to see the potential of it.
Yeah.
I watched the whole thing. There has never been anything like it. Nothing as your character Homelander is so terrifying.
Everyone says that. It's so weird to me because I don't see it at all. I just look like it's funny. It's not to compare myself at all, but like Jack Nicholson. I'm not to compare myself to basically a fucking god of cinema. But Jack Nicholson in The Shining. You remember, everyone talks about how scary he is.
I didn't think he was that bad.
I didn't think he was scary, but I'm biased because I just sit there going, oh, he's just so good.
Yeah.
He's so good. It's just like it's insane. And if you look at the I think it's Kubrick. There's a Kubrick documentary called A Life in Pictures, and Nicholson's in that, and they show it's a behind the scenes camera of him getting ready to do this scene when he follows her up the stairs with the axe. And Shelley Duvall is reversing up the stairs, and it's incredible. It's phenomenal. But I never get scared by it, and I feel the same. Again, not about the performance because he's a genius, but I don't think it's scary. I think it's kind of comical.
Sure.
So every time, because I get a lot of that, like a lot of people saying, "Yeah, Homelander's so scary." I'm like, really?
There's a ton of comedy in Homelander. There's moments of genuine hilarity, like just in situationally, like that's the funny response.
Right.
But there are these moments where he could not care less about human life.
I think and I think on the note, I think going into what you're talking about is the pragmatism. It's the response that is, you know, and I think, you know, I look at the politics of today, and there's campaign managers I know, not just campaign managers, but the way people are thinking and strategizing. It is ruthless, and there is a mercenary sort of coldness to it. There's a lack of humanity. There's a lack of empathy.
I know exactly what it is. It's a farmer butcher. I remember growing up. The first time I saw my grandfather, who they owned 10 acres in Texas and raised things, snap a neck on a chicken and then pluck it and grill it right in front of me. The whole thing felt so cold and so heartless.
Well, there's a detached.
As a child, you're overwhelmed.
Yeah, of course.
And there's that disconnect in humanity. It's the exact same thing.
That's what I mean. It becomes, you stop seeing the thing for what it is, right? You stop seeing people as what they are. You stop seeing, and it just becomes, well, that, for the farmer, for example, that's money, or that's food, or that's whatever. They do it so often that it's the repetition of the same thing, right? It doesn't mean the same thing that it would mean to us. And I think that's what chills people about Homelander. Is it's very logical, it's very pragmatic, very, very dry and cold, but from the optics, from an optical perspective, or from the politics of it, the optics of it, he's right.
100% correct.
He's actually right, because if they do take someone, like they've already gone down the rabbit hole. So the way out of the rabbit hole is not to keep digging. It's actually, no, we've got to make a choice. It's us or them. And there's, he's a slave. He's not a slave. He, at least in season 1, is the master of his own destiny and really taking strong actions. Yeah, it takes control. Which is the interesting thing about season 2, is that that's all gone. So I'm really excited to see people, because I know that, actually, one of the reviews that we were talking about, the one that I did look at today, because someone said you should probably read this. I won't say what outlet it was, because I can't remember. But good, right? It was so good. But it did say if Homelander in season 1 was terrifying, and in this season you're going to feel sorry for him, which I don't know. I don't want to tell anyone else how to feel, but there could be something in that. It's a very different season, and I'm interested to see what people think about it, because it was a bit of a head F to put season 2 together, because it was so different to season 1. So I'm very curious to see what people think. I kind of always just looked at it from the beginning that his kryptonite, if you like, was his own humanity. So what he
Does
hates.
he have any?
Yes, but it's not. He just doesn't have the same moral. His moral compass doesn't have the same north as us.
Sure.
Right, but yeah, I think there is humanity in there, much as he would like there not to be. With Stillwell, for example, like when, the very first episode, he takes out the plane with the kid in it, and the mayor of Baltimore, I think it was. And then turns up in Stillwell's office, like a little kid, like, see what I did for you. And doesn't understand when she turns around and goes, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Sure.
And he's hurt, and he's offended, because in his mind, he did the right thing. She was being blackmailed and threatened, so he took the guy out, right? Took care of her, yeah. So it's not what we would think is right, but it is there. And the scene with his father, confronting his father, and he gets pretty trashed by having it's not his father figure, the doctor, Vogelbaum, gets really pretty upset at the way his father treats him. No spoilers, but that does come up later on. And if it's in season 2, you'll find out there is an extension on that relationship that's
really neat.
It's funny. It's not spelled out, but there is a subtle little thing that if you think back, like, But I think the humanity is in there. It's just not. It's not our version of.
It's kind of like you've heard the magnifying glass over an anthill thing.
Yes.
You don't really process that this is.
No. It's like, what was it? Watchmen. the Watchmen, the movie.
Yes.
It's probably the comics as well.
That's exactly correct.
But the Blue Man, I forget his name. Sorry.
Dr. Manhattan.
But yeah, Dr. Manhattan just ends up being like he's just gone. He's away from humanity. There is nothing that has to offer him. He's just evolved into another being. I'll tell you, my favorite bad guy in a comic book was Thanos. In the last Avengers, that whole idea of just halving saving the universe by halving the amount of life in it, basically was his deal, right?
Sure.
I love that he had that philosophical drive to just. He was doing. It was the greater good. You know what he was doing for the greater good, and it was, not good for half of life.
Sure.
But I like that because I love that. You want to see your bad guys, not just be so. Not be one note, and having that bigger drive, it makes it more complex and gives it more layers. And also, Josh Brolin is pretty amazing, right?
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So I actually brought 2 bottles from your birth year.
Oh my God.
This one here, but we opened one specifically for you.
Amazing.
This one was opened a couple episodes back. I don't know if it was with Brendan Schaub or not. This is Wild Turkey 101.
Brendan Schaub, the UFC fighter?
Yeah, he's been on the show a couple times. Good friend. Love the guy.
Really?
Yeah. Do you know him well?
No, I do not. I like his. I've seen him fight. I'm like, I love you. I love MMA.
He's a stand-up comic, and I'm a comic fanatic, and so he came on the show. I think we opened this either the first or the second time he came on.
Oh, really?
Wild Turkey now is kind of thought of as like a college drink. It's not quite, but the old 1975 Wild Turkey, this is an Italian export, so it made it all the way to Italy.
Really?
And came all the way back, yeah. This is some of the best, like in the bourbon world, very well loved and very well respected. And it'll run you a good $600 to $900 depending on your...
No, really?
Yeah.
So the expression "pearls to swine" is ringing a bell. Like anytime anyone gives me like something that's like expensive, I'm like, just give it to someone that knows what they're talking about.
Oh, I mean,
honestly, don't waste it on me.
Listen, at its core, it's just bourbon, right? You just drink it, you love it, it's good.
Amen. Cheers again.
Cheers, absolutely.
Never more than ever. Now more than ever, good health.
I didn't expect The Boys to be as overwhelmingly a force of a show as season 1 was.
It seems like this has the potential to be something
massive
that could grow and it could be good, So we'll see what happens,
Have you done any of these Comic-Con things where you travel to?
Yeah, I love them.
Yeah,
I love them. Yeah, because it's the least pretentious bunch of people that you'll ever meet. It's all comic nerds, and they're wonderful. I love nerds. I think nerds are the best. I don't even know. I don't know what a nerd is, to be honest.
Sure, but I get what you mean, yeah. The people who come to these events are obviously the most emphatic about what you do.
Yeah, and exactly. And there is no pretension. It's just genuine adoration and a great chance to just sort of hang out and meet people, and that's where the rubber hits the road, right? That's the people that we're making the show for. We're not making it for ourselves. We're making it for the fans. I had a bunch of these conventions lined up this year. It was going to be great, and then the Rona took everything out. But it's honestly, I'm saying, like, it's just such a great way to connect with the fans. And the thing I love about it is the cosplay. The costume, the dressing up as characters that's what I didn't expect, and what I'm really enjoying about
the attention
The Boys
to detail and
oh my God, these guys! It's incredible. Like people dressing up as Homelander or any other, like all of the characters off The Boys, and they're so into it. They're so into it. It's I never realized that was going to be like quite such a thing.
Are you numb to it yet? Or you still get excited to see?
No, it's amazing. We went to Brazil and I met, actually no, it wasn't Brazil. It was in, we had a virtual convention earlier on this year, and I met this Italian guy who dresses as Homelander and is constantly posting as, and these, I don't know where he gets the time, but
Oh, it's his Instagram account.
He's so into it, and it's amazing. So I got to meet him on this virtually meet him, and he was thrilled, and it was great. It was just they're so dedicated to it. It's amazing.
Is there something that you really want to do, but obviously in the future, like
that question comes up not a lot. But it's funny whenever.
Thanks for making me feel better.
No, not a lot. Yeah. No, but it's comic, but and it's a legitimate. It's a good question because so many actors grow up as children wanting to be actors and filmmakers or whatever. They know what they want to do. I didn't want to be an actor. I'm still in that position where someday I'm gonna figure out what I'm gonna do with my life. You know, I never grew up wanting to be in the film industry or anything, and so I don't have necessarily the same ambitions. Maybe I don't know.
You think you find yourself getting out of it eventually?
I don't know. I didn't.
Who was that?
Probably not now. I mean,
Sure.
I love it. You know, there's I fell into it, but I adore it, and I meet great people and get to travel, and there's so much that I love about it, but I couldn't tell you like one thing or another. Some people are very specific, like you said, that you just mentioned, and they know exactly what they want to do, down to the role, not just
Sure.
a type of role or a genre or whatever. They know exactly what they want to do. I'm not like that. Like I like a challenge. I just want to work with good people on good projects. You know, much more than you know when you're younger and you're a little. I think my ambitions have changed, and now it's more about being surrounded with good people, because that's what you kind of take out of it.
That's a great twist on that question. Then, so if maybe not a role, but is there a director or someone you'd really like to work with eventually? Have you thought about that? The Tarantinos or the Nolans or the...
I mean, there's infinite. I mean, but obviously you want to work with the best people on the best things, but realistically you could have an awful time with an amazing director who's a complete asshole. I would rather be with a lesser known
director,
not so genius director, and have a good relationship and a good creative
experience,
collaboration, and a good experience. Because whilst it's all going on, you are living your life, right? So
sure.
I'd rather be around. If you can have both, great. They're going to be an incredible, amazing, you know, talent, and a good person, then great. But I would probably lean into. As I'm saying that, I'm thinking, but if so-and-so knocks on your door, you're going to say yes.
If Martin Scorsese's like,
exactly.
I need you to...
Next time Spielberg calls, I might review this thought and say yes. But,
sure.
I don't know. I don't have any... I don't have a rule on that, you know.
All right, so this is your birth year bottle. And here's the thing.
That's amazing.
Old whiskey doesn't necessarily mean good whiskey, so there's no promises that this is going to be worth drinking.
Okay.
But usually the right brands, you know, is going to be a safe bet.
Right.
And if it's clear, it's safe to drink. That's all you have to worry about.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
this is first time it's been opened in, how old are you, 40?
44.
44 years?
Yeah.
Oh, it smells good. I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
IW Harper, back then, fun fact, we made so much bourbon in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, but we couldn't sell it fast enough. So what they would do is they made them collectible. They would put them in every possible decanter you could to make people collect them like Beanie Babies.
Oh, really?
Duck decanters, barrel decanters. There's a couple of every animal you've ever heard of. Train sets, car sets.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they had to get rid of the bourbon, otherwise it would go bad. You can't. With Scotch, you can leave in the barrel for 30 years. 40 years. Bourbon, you can't. Yeah, it's not good at 20 years.
Yeah, okay.
You get any older than 18 and you're pushing your luck.
Huh. Happy birthday, me.
Happy birthday. When's your October 25th?
You've done your homework.
Hey man, I tried. I remembered it because
It's good too.
Yeah, my wedding anniversary's.
It was a good year for babies and bourbon.
Yeah, 1975 was a good year.
It was a good year in New Zealand for one mother.
Our wedding anniversary is 5 days before. That's why.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so when I saw October, it always rings a bell. Oh, I love that. Yeah,
what do you love about it? Tell me about my bourbon year, because I can't. I'm gonna tell you, it smells like
alcohol.
bourbon.
Yeah.
It tastes like.
Well, you've talked to
bourbon.
You live in Hollywood. There's got to be some wine experiences where someone rolled out some fancy $500 bottle of wine and said, "This is a beautiful vintage from."
Well, less of that with the people that I associate with, but I did go out with a couple of wine snob friends of mine who got great pleasure at the end of the meal, and I didn't indulge with them. I can't remember. I was drinking beer or something. Then the check came, and they'd been ordering fucking $200 bottles of wine, and 3 of them, 4 of them, whatever, and they just divided the check in 3, and we didn't realize, and they thought it was hilarious that I got stung an extra $300 for my meal. I was like, you kidding?
Sure.
I had 3 Coronas, and I had like a $400 check.
Oh, that's horrible.
No, it was horrible, and now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, no, that's a lot of money to stiff someone with a bill.
Sure.
But they thought it was hysterical.
That's my only problem with wine is we have some wine at the house. We have a nice wine fridge, but wine it's a lot of money for something you have to drink in like that sitting. You can't keep it for whiskey. What's great is. A bottle can be open for months or years. Mm-hmm. I did. You don't have to. I did bring a bottle from 1905. It's 115 years old, and it's actually much lower in alcohol.
Wow.
It's ginger brandy. This is actually the cork that came in it.
Okay, so you got to take the cork out so it doesn't.
Yeah, so when we pick it up at auction, we had to actually filter out some of the sediment and stuff. It's been sitting in the bottle for 115 years, and
wow.
The cork it tends to dry up after that long.
Yeah, okay.
So we put in a replacement cork, and
gotcha.
We actually made an old fashioned with it with Coleman Domingo, and
oh really?
Back then this was medicinal. So it says right on the front, it says. Helps with pelvic cramps, diarrhea, indigestion, and this was the Pepto-Bismol of 1905.
Oh my God!
So it's just a fun piece of history in the bottle.
Wow, yeah, that's incredible.
And that was another one I opened with Brendan Schaub and Brian Callen, and
relieves indigestion and flatulence.
That's right. Helps with farts.
Who knew?
And to me, I love this more than wine because I feel like there's a lot of snobbery in wine, but there's a lot of fascination in spirits. You can taste something. It's a time capsule from 115 years ago. And
that's amazing.
It's pretty interesting, and it's 30% ABV or something like that. But it doesn't. It's not nearly as strong.
No, it's not. It's 35. Yeah.
Yeah, it's much lower.
Oh, that's beautiful. What's the story with Coca-Cola and it having cocaine in it?
So it's.
You might know. Like, finally, I found someone that might know. What's the truth about cocaine in Coca-Cola?
So in the early and this is tied to spirits actually. In the early 1900s, there were no regulations about protecting the consumer. You could put anything in anything. Snake oil, you've heard the old saying in America, snake oil.
Yep.
So you could sell someone something, it'll cure baldness, it'll help with your fertility issues, whatever the case might be. Coca-Cola found an addictive substance to put in their drink that could, and even now, they still use coca leaves in the recipe. They just remove the drug.
That's what someone told me.
Yeah, they just remove the drug portion. So the back then they would add cocaine to their drink, and that's where our image of Santa comes from. Same time period.
That's right.
Coca-Cola created.
That's why he's red and white, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Coca-Cola created our image of Santa the same time that they were dosing us with lines of Coke.
Which sounds a lot cooler than it actually is, because there's something really bad about that.
Yeah, the Bottled and Bond Act of the late 1800s was the first regulation around bourbon to make sure we weren't poisoning people.
Wow.
So what we know of bourbon now is from 1964, but is it difficult Are there high demands of you physically with, I know the show, I mean...
No, actually, you mentioned Banshee before. Like, that was really demanding, really brutal, and that was, I got beaten up, literally, doing these fight scenes. You get beaten up, you get bruised and battered and scraped, and I seem to be fighting Lucas Hood, having the elixir of healing. I was fighting constantly on that show, and this is much better. This is,
more special effects and less
it's
physical.
all special. It's visual effects driven, but also the character is he's the apex predator, right? And tends to just laser things.
Sure.
Or even if I'm like throwing someone, I'm super strong, so it's that. It's not like there's no big fight sequences or anything. So it's actually been my aging body loves me for it and loves the show for it.
And that's actually, you mentioned Banshee. That's the other thing I was going to ask you about. Let's talk about your American accent for a minute.
Just go. What do you go for it? What do you think?
I am utterly fascinated. So I watched you do an interview. You mentioned going through speech therapy to develop it.
Yeah, we had a guy.
The first, Banshee, I can't discern that you're not American at all.
Well, that's good because it wasn't like that when we first started shooting. There's a Frankie Faison, who's Sugar the bartender. Great guy, great actor. There was a scene in that first episode where I come into his bar for the first time. And
he serves you a bottle of Blanton's.
Serves me, right. And so they added a line because we shot out of sequence. So we shot the fifth episode first as hold on, was it fifth? The fourth episode we shot first up. So that was our pilot episode was episode 4, let's say. And then we went back. So if you look at the accent in 4, it's worse.
Oh, really?
So by the time we did 1, it was after about three episodes deep, right? And then we shot episode 1 deliberately so that the pilot was stronger than maybe arguably episode 4.
And it was very strong. That pilot was extremely
it was pretty solid. Everyone was up on their feet, and it fell into place pretty well.
It was very 24-esque.
24-esque? I
never
saw 24.
24 was an extremely popular Fox show.
I know.
It was action-driven.
Yeah, with Kiefer.
Yes, the first few minutes into Banshee, it is... pardon my language, it's balls to the wall.
It definitely was one of those shows, and you notice like the season 2, and a lot of the episodes don't start with here's the setup. It's not necessarily classic storytelling. You might drop right into the middle of the story, that was one of the things that we did on it. So I come into the bar with Sugar Bates and Greg Utanis, he was our showrunner, very sheepishly came up to me and said, "We're going to add a line in here just to cover our bases. He's going to ask you, he's going to say to you, you talk funny, where you come from?" And I was going to say, a lot of places, because my accent was so fucking bad.
Sure.
It was terrible. But it was a learning curve, I had to learn. You have to learn, and you learn where your weaknesses are. And it got better, and they didn't use that line in the show because it got better.
Sure.
But they added it in because it was, it was my first American job, and it was
very first, and it was a great success.
It did better internationally than it did domestically in the States. Yeah, it was difficult for people to find on Cinemax. So it did well for the network. It was their number 1 show, but it just never really got the eyeballs that we wanted it to get.
The one thing I was watching is, and it never occurred to me, I've seen plenty of, I say foreign actors, but try to put on an American accent.
Right.
I was wondering, did you master the American accent and could say anything, or were you only working on perfecting your lines in an American accent?
I think I can't speak for anyone else, but for me it starts off with the lines because obviously that's what you want to get right.
Sure.
But then it very quickly becomes. Look, put it this way. I know other actors that have to keep their accent up all the time. So if they've got to do an American accent, they're constantly speaking with that. I never wanted to do that, so I always wanted to be able to drop in and out of it relatively easily. So it starts off with the lines, and then it progressed. The more comfortable you get with it, but what that was we started Banshee probably 7-8 years ago. So it's been a while now of being in and around that. So it comes and goes pretty easy, but I still get tripped up. You know, it's still something that you got to keep an eye on. And every now and then I'll just grab a Canadian crew member and say, "Hey, say this. How do you say about Ubud?" But every now and then I got to check in with someone, like, just to hear it so that I can mimic it. But generally it's okay now.
Well, I got to say, I this could not have gone better. I appreciate you coming out.
I'm such a lightweight.
It's okay.
I can't drink straight spirits. I'm learning.
It takes a little practice.
I do like a little bit of it, but
Just
I don't know what's happened with the day as well. Maybe it's also the context of actually having to think.
It's been a long day.
It's been a long day for you. I just went cycling and didn't eat much, and I think that's just
Sure.
I tell you, man. But this was delicious and very fun.
Thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Of course.
And so The Boys season 2, we'll get a socially distanced photo or something, and then that works.
Of course.
Balcones' first ever year-round bourbon was an inspiration. It all had to work together. A blend of carefully selected ingredients, Texas-sized pot stills, and creative people determined to find the absolute best way to usher a new whiskey along. When you discover how it pairs with a meaningful moment, suddenly the feeling of drinking great whiskey becomes a whole lot more.